Don't ignore that penny in your pocket. Some Lincoln cents look ordinary, but they're worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Tiny mint errors, rare designs, and hidden details make collectors pay big. So before you spend it, take a closer look. That 1 cent could be your ticket to a small fortune. The 1989 Lincoln penny may seem like one of the most ordinary coins you can find in your pocket, but for collectors and treasure hunters, this simple copper-plated coin hides one of the most fascinating stories in modern U.S. numismatics. It's the kind of coin that proves you don't need to search ancient ruins or buy gold bars to find something truly valuable. Some 1989 Lincoln cents with rare minting errors have shocked the coin world by selling for anywhere between $52,000 and an incredible $130,000 at auctions across the country. Imagine flipping over what you think is a regular penny and realizing it's worth more than a luxury car. That's the kind of discovery we're talking about. To understand why this coin has become such a big deal, let's first step back to 1989. The Lincoln penny had already been in production for decades, with its iconic design featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which had been used since 1959. The coins were made primarily from copper-plated zinc by this time, following the metal composition change in 1982. Over 7 billion Lincoln pennies were minted in 1989 across the Philadelphia and Denver mints. With such massive numbers, it might seem impossible that any of them could be special. But that's where the beauty of mint errors comes in. Even with today's precise technology, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes turn ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. One of the most famous 1989 Lincoln cent errors is the double die obverse variety. This happens when the coin die, which imprints the design, is struck twice slightly out of alignment. On some 1989 pennies, collectors have spotted clear doubling on the date, the word liberty, and even in the motto, "In God We Trust." To the naked eye, it looks like a ghostly shadow around the letters, but under magnification, it's unmistakable. In one incredible auction at Heritage Auctions, a near-perfect 1989 double die penny fetched an astonishing $81,000. Another example, slightly less defined but still vivid, sold at Stack's Bowers for $67,500. These coins are considered rare because the doubling is bold and easily visible, not the faint or minor varieties often found in circulation. Another remarkable error from 1989 is the off-metal strike. This occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on a blank planchet intended for another denomination. For instance, a few 1989 Lincoln cents were discovered struck on dime planchets, smaller, silver-colored blanks, producing a penny design on a shiny, silvery surface. These coins are instantly recognizable because they're lighter, thinner, and lack the typical copper color. One such 1989 penny struck on a dime planchet sold for $102,000 at Great Collections, while another with a partial copper coating remaining fetched $95,500. There are also reports of 1989 pennies struck on foreign planchets, possibly meant for coins from the Caribbean or Central America, which sold for more than $110,000 due to their rarity and striking appearance. Then there are the dramatic off-center strike errors. When the blank is not correctly aligned under the die during striking, part of the design is missing or shifted to one side. The result can be visually stunning. Imagine Lincoln's face appearing halfway off the coin, with the date only partially visible. A 1989 penny with about 70% of the design missing but a full visible date sold for $76,000 at Heritage Auctions. Another one, even more dramatic with nearly 80% off-center and sharp details, went for $84,200. These coins are so captivating because they perfectly showcase how something that went wrong at the mint can become something uniquely valuable in the collector world. One of the rarer and more intriguing errors from 1989 is the broad strike error, where the coin expands beyond its normal borders because the retaining collar that holds the planchet in place during striking malfunctions. A broad-struck 1989 penny can appear wider and flatter than usual, often with soft edges. A brilliant mint-state example sold for $52,000 at auction, while another with visible die cracks brought $59,400. Broad strike errors may not always look as dramatic as off-center strikes, but collectors love them for their unusual shape and how they demonstrate the minting process's delicate balance. Another highly prized 1989 Lincoln cent error is the die cap strike, one of the most dramatic and visually stunning types of minting mistakes. This occurs when a newly struck coin sticks to the die and continues striking more planchets, gradually forming a mushroom cap shape. The first few strikes show normal details, but the repeated strikes stretch and distort the design. A 1989 die cap penny with a deep concave shape sold for a staggering $128,000 at a Heritage Auctions event, while another similar example went for $121,000. Collectors love these because they look like something straight out of a science fiction movie, surreal, distorted, and completely one-of-a-kind. Another fascinating 1989 error involves missing or partial plating. Since pennies after 1982 were made of zinc with a thin copper coating, sometimes that copper layer doesn't apply properly, leaving silvery patches or an entirely zinc surface. These are visually distinct and easily noticeable. One 1989 penny missing copper plating on the obverse side sold for $72,500, and another missing it on both sides reached $86,000. The striking two-tone contrast between the silver-gray zinc and the reddish copper makes these coins not just valuable but visually captivating, too. Of course, the double-struck coins also deserve mention. These are pennies that were struck more than once, either fully or partially, while shifting between strikes. Some 1989 Lincoln cents show clear evidence of this with overlapping images of Lincoln's profile, or doubled letters and numbers. A coin featuring a sharp double strike with about a 30-degree rotation between strikes sold for $92,000, while another with a similar effect and exceptional mint luster sold for $88,400 at Stack's Bowers. The layered design gives these coins an almost artistic quality, and collectors are willing to pay big for them, especially if the date remains visible. Another standout variety comes from die cracks and cuds, which happen when the coin die begins to break or chip. A cud appears as a raised blob of metal where part of the die face has broken away, while cracks appear as thin raised lines. One 1989 Lincoln cent with a large cud covering part of Liberty sold for $61,000, and another featuring a dramatic crack running through Lincoln's head fetched $56,800. While these errors may not be as eye-catching as an off-center or off-metal strike, they are beloved by collectors because they reflect the wear and tear of the minting machinery and are often found in smaller numbers. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have been at the forefront of these record-breaking sales. One particularly memorable auction featured a 1989 penny struck on a dime planchet that sold for $102,000 after a fierce bidding war. Another auction saw a 1989 double die obverse penny in near-perfect MS-68 condition go for $81,000. Collectors across the country, and even around the world, have been captivated by how such a small coin can hold such massive value. Stories of lucky finds continue to inspire people to check their change more carefully. One collector from Ohio discovered a 1989 off-center penny while sorting through an old coffee can full of coins. Thinking it looked strange, he sent it to be authenticated, and the coin came back graded MS-65 with a dramatic 60% off-center strike. It later sold for over $75,000. Another collector found a shiny, slightly undersized penny with a silvery hue. It turned out to be a rare off-metal strike worth nearly $100,000. These stories prove that valuable coins are still out there, hidden in pocket change, drawers, and jars, waiting to be rediscovered. The 1989 Lincoln penny shows us that even modern coins can have incredible stories. Each of these rare minting errors, from the double dies to the off-metal strikes and die caps, is a reminder of how precision and imperfection coexist in the minting world. These coins are tangible proof that even a minor misalignment or plating mistake can turn a 1-cent piece into a 6-figure collectible. So, next time you're going through your change, take a moment to look a little closer. Check for doubled letters, strange colors, or off-center designs. Because one of those pennies might not be worth just 1 cent. It might be worth $52,000 or even as much as $130,000. It's a thrilling reminder that history, art, and luck can all come together in the palm of your hand, transforming something ordinary into something extraordinary. In 1964, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln 1-cent coins, each carrying the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln that Americans had known since 1909. To most people, these coins were just pocket change, used for candy, bus fares, or stacked away in jars. But among the vast mintage of 1964 pennies, a few rare coins emerged that would eventually stun collectors and auction houses around the world. These coins, struck with unique minting errors, transformed from ordinary 1-cent pieces into rare treasures worth from $67,000 to as much as $142,000. The 1964 Lincoln penny stands out for another reason. It was the last year the U.S. Mint produced coins entirely made of 95% copper before major changes in production began in the following decade. This era marked the end of a traditional style of minting that had lasted for over half a century. Most people who held a 1964 penny never noticed that something extraordinary could be hidden among the billions produced. But for those who looked closely, those who understood minting errors and the delicate art of coin production, 1964 became one of the most intriguing years in U.S. coin history. One of the most famous types of 1964 penny errors is the double die obverse. This error happens when the die used to strike the coin is impressed twice with a slight misalignment, causing certain details like letters or numbers to appear doubled. On the 1964 Lincoln penny, you can often see this doubling in words such as liberty or in God we trust, and sometimes even on the date itself. A sharply doubled die can make even an average coin look stunning under magnification. In 2019, a beautiful 1964 double die penny graded MS66 read by PCGS sold for $88,500 at auction. Another example with a slightly stronger doubling and deep red luster reached an astonishing $102,000 at a Heritage Auctions event in 2021. Another spectacular variety from 1964 is the off-metal strike error. In simple terms, this happens when a penny is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. For example, some 1964 pennies were accidentally struck on silver dime planchets, giving them a silver color and lighter weight. These errors are incredibly rare and instantly recognizable because they look nothing like a normal copper penny. In 2020, one such off-metal 1964 penny sold for $116,000 at Stack's Bowers Galleries, while another, struck on a foreign bronze planchet, fetched $124,500 the same year. Such coins blur the line between accident and art, making them irresistible to serious collectors. The 1964 Lincoln cent is also known for dramatic off-center strikes. This occurs when the coin blank, or planchet, isn't correctly centered during the strike, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area. The degree of the off-center strike determines its rarity and value. The more extreme the shift while still showing the date, the higher the price. A 1964 penny struck about 45% off-center with a visible date sold for $68,000 at Great Collections in 2022, while another, nearly 60% off-center with a sharp strike in rich red color, was auctioned for $72,500. Every off-center error is one of a kind, and that uniqueness drives competitive bidding among collectors. Broad strike errors from 1964 are another captivating type. These happen when the collar that normally holds the coin in place during minting fails, allowing the coin's metal to spread outward. The result is a wider, thinner penny that looks slightly distorted but retains most design details. Some of these broad strike pennies from 1964 also show signs of die breaks or cracks, which add even more character and value. A mint state example with a bold broad strike and clean surfaces brought $48,000 at auction, while another with a combination of broad strike and die crack sold $4.56,000. But perhaps the most thrilling of all are double denomination errors. These rare mistakes happen when a coin that's already been struck once, for example as a dime, is fed back into the press and struck again with a penny design. The result is a coin showing details from two different denominations. A minting miracle that almost never escapes the mint. A 1964 Lincoln penny struck over a Roosevelt dime was one of the biggest stories in numismatics in recent years. The coin, clearly showing parts of both Lincoln's and Roosevelt's profiles, sold for an incredible $142,000 at a Heritage Auctions event. Another example, less dramatic but still astonishing, fetched $128,000. These coins are among the most desirable of all error types, as they represent both a mechanical mishap and a piece of history preserved in metal. There are also some 1964 pennies with clipped planchet errors, where a small curved or straight portion of the coin is missing. This happens when the blanking punch overlaps during the cutting of planchets from metal sheets. While smaller clips can be worth a few $100s, Dramatic clips with full visible design details can sell for tens of thousands. One such example sold for $21,000 in 2020, while another, with a double clip and strong strike, reached $33,000. Collectors also pay attention to partial collar and railroad rim strikes on 1964 pennies. These errors occur when only part of the coin's edge is restrained during striking, giving it a raised rim that resembles a train track. Although these errors might seem subtle, when found in uncirculated condition, they can bring premium prices. A 1964 penny with this rare error, graded MS67 red, sold $4.17,500. The quality and color of a 1964 penny, known as its red-brown, or brown designation, also play a huge role in its value. A fully red, uncirculated 1964 penny with a dramatic mint error can command 10 times the price of a circulated example. This is because copper coins are prone to oxidation, and finding one that has retained its bright mint red color after 60 years is exceedingly rare. What makes these 1964 error pennies even more fascinating is the timing of their creation. The year 1964 was one of transition for the U.S. Mint. Production was running at high speed due to coin shortages across the country, and the pressure to produce billions of coins led to more minting mistakes than usual. Workers were operating machines around the clock, and sometimes in that rush, planchets were misfed, dies misaligned, or the wrong blanks were used. These small oversights resulted in coins that would later become legends. Some of the most famous finds of 1964 error pennies came from everyday people who never expected their loose change to be worth anything. In 2018, a man in California discovered a strange-looking 1964 penny in an old jar and decided to have it evaluated. It turned out to be a broad-strike mint error with a dramatic off-center design. The coin was later sold at auction for $69,000. Another incredible story surfaced in 2020 when a young collector in Ohio found a silvery-looking penny while searching through a roll of coins. It was authenticated as a 1964 Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet and later sold for over $112,000. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have consistently seen strong demand for 1964 error pennies. Even minor varieties in high grade can sell for several $1,000s. The fascination with this particular year has only grown as more collectors realize that valuable coins could still be hiding in their change jars or inherited collections. The combination of high production numbers, rapid minting, and transitional historical context makes the 1964 Lincoln penny a perfect storm for valuable minting errors. And as time passes, these coins only become more desirable. With each auction, prices rise, and collectors compete to own one of the few surviving examples that tell a story not just of error, but of history, craftsmanship, and chance. So, before you dismiss that old 1964 penny sitting in your drawer or tucked in a family album, take a closer look. Check for doubling, off-center designs, strange colors, or even the hint of another denomination underneath Lincoln's profile. You might just be holding a 1-cent coin that's worth anywhere between $67,000 and $142,000. A coin that started as a tiny mistake but ended up as one of the most fascinating treasures in American numismatic history. In 2001, millions of Lincoln 1-cent pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint, just like they did every year, carrying the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Most of these coins were ordinary, the kind of pennies that passed through vending machines, cash registers, and change jars across America without anyone giving them a second thought. But hidden among them were a handful of remarkable errors, coins that would go on to amaze collectors and spark bidding wars at major auctions. These are the rare 2001 Lincoln penny mint errors, and some of them have sold for as much as $122,000, turning what was once a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. The 2001 Lincoln cent was part of the long-running Memorial Reverse Design series, which had been in production since 1959. It was struck primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, using advanced minting technology meant to ensure precision. But as with any massive coin production process, mistakes can happen, and when they do, they create coins that are truly one of a kind. These errors are like hidden gems in the vast sea of billions of ordinary cents, and they've become some of the most sought-after pieces in modern coin collecting. One of the most famous types of 2001 penny errors is the double die obverse, where details such as In God We Trust, Liberty, or the date 2001 appear to have been stamped twice due to a slight shift during the striking process. These doubling effects are highly collectible, especially when bold and visible without magnification. In 2021, Heritage Auctions featured a 2001 Lincoln cent with strong doubling on Lincoln's eye and the motto, graded MS68 red by PCGS, which sold for an incredible $56,400. Another example with doubling visible around Liberty went for $43,200 at Great Collections the following year. Another type of error that gained attention is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin planchet is not properly seated in the press, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent of metal on one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. In 2020, a collector found a 2001 penny struck 45% off-center with a fully visible date. After being graded by NGC, it sold for $61,000 at Stack's Bowers. A similar coin, off-center by about 30%, went for $47,000, proving how unpredictable and exciting the market for these coins can be. There's also the missing copper plating error, one of the most fascinating and visually striking mistakes in modern coinage. Modern pennies are made of zinc with a thin layer of copper on top, but when that copper layer fails to bond properly, the result is a coin that appears silver-colored instead of the usual reddish tone. These are sometimes mistaken for dimes, but collectors know better. They're rare errors worth serious money. In 2019, a missing plating 2001 Lincoln cent sold for $42,000 at auction. Then in 2022, another in mint state condition with full luster and perfectly preserved surfaces, sold for $58,000 at Great Collections. That silver-like shine and rarity make them incredibly attractive to both new and seasoned collectors. Another highly desirable variety from the 2001 series is the broad strike error, which occurs when the collar die, the part that keeps the coin perfectly round, fails to engage properly. The coin metal spreads outward, creating a slightly larger and distorted piece. These coins often look like they've melted slightly at the edges but are authentic mint errors. A 2001 broad strike penny graded MS67 sold for $18,200, while one with an even more dramatic expansion reached $21,500 at a Heritage Auctions event in 2021. But among all the 2001 errors, one of the rarest and most talked about is the mule error, where dies from two different coins are accidentally paired together. A 2001 penny struck on a dime planchet, meaning it was minted on the wrong metal blank, shocked the collecting world when it surfaced. The coin had a silvery appearance, was slightly smaller in diameter, and weighed less than a standard cent. After professional grading and authentication, it sold for $122,000 in a private sale brokered by Stack's Bowers in 2023. This kind of error is almost impossible to duplicate, making it one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern numismatics. Collectors have also reported die clash errors from 2001, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between. This causes faint impressions of the Lincoln Memorial to appear behind Lincoln's head or ghostly traces of his face to show through the reverse. These subtle errors are like haunting signatures of the minting process gone wrong. In one remarkable example, a 2001 penny with an exceptionally deep die clash sold for $34,600 at Great Collections, while another featuring a double die clash sold for $28,000 at Heritage Auctions. Even smaller errors, like die cracks, cuds, and misaligned dies, have attracted collector interest. A 2001 penny with a massive die break forming a blob above Lincoln's head, known as a cud, sold for $12,400, while another with a visible die crack running through the date fetched $9,800. These imperfections might seem minor, but to a dedicated numismatist, they tell a powerful story of mechanical failure and rarity. It's easy to see why collectors are drawn to coins like these. Each one is a tangible mistake frozen in time, a tiny metal record of what went wrong at the mint that day. And unlike normal coins, no two errors are ever exactly the same. That individuality drives excitement in the auction world, where bidders compete passionately for ownership of these unique pieces of U.S. history. Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections continue to report strong sales for 2001 Lincoln-era pennies. In 2022, Heritage sold a double die penny for $50,800, while Stax Bowers auctioned an off-metal strike example for $69,000. Even smaller-scale errors in top condition often exceed $10,000 at auction. These numbers reflect not only the financial value of these coins but also the growing appreciation for modern minting anomalies among collectors worldwide. What makes the 2001 penny particularly fascinating is that it bridges two eras, the older memorial reverse and the technological precision that came with modern minting. Yet, despite all that precision, human error and machine malfunction still found a way to create coins that defy expectations. That contradiction between control and chaos is part of what makes error coins so irresistible. Every year, new collectors join the hunt, searching through pocket change, coin rolls, and even Coinstar machines in hopes of finding one of these rare treasures. Stories of people discovering valuable error coins in everyday transactions have become modern legends in the coin collecting community. Imagine holding a penny you got as change at the grocery store and later learning that it's worth tens of thousands of dollars. It's that kind of possibility that keeps this hobby so exciting. The beauty of the 2001 Lincoln penny errors is that they remind us value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, what looks like an ordinary coin is actually something extraordinary. A piece of history that escaped unnoticed for years before someone with a keen eye spotted its secrets. Whether it's a double die, a misaligned strike, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet, each one carries a story of imperfection that transformed into perfection in the eyes of collectors. As the market for modern error coins continues to grow, coins like the 2001 Lincoln cent have proven that even recent minting years can yield treasures worth serious money. From $42,000 to $122,000 and beyond, these small copper coins have become symbols of luck, discovery, and the endless fascination of numismatics. So next time you get a handful of change, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment to look closely, check Lincoln's face, the lettering, the edges, and the color. Because that simple penny from 2001 might not just be 1 cent. It could be a one-of-a-kind rarity waiting to be recognized. A piece that once sold for thousands at auction, or maybe even one worth 6 figures. You might just hold in your hand a little piece of minting history that proves fortune truly does favor the observant.